Most people wait for inspiration before they move. But let me tell you something. Inspiration is overrated. The truth is, life does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your actions. You don't get stronger by thinking about lifting weights. You get stronger by forcing yourself to pick them up. The human mind is tricky. It whispers comfort. It bargains with delay. It seduces you with tomorrow. But tomorrow is a thief. If you want progress, you must master the psychology of now. Action first, feelings later. That's the law. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll wait forever. The only way to change your life is to force yourself into motion, because motion creates the emotion that builds success. Discipline really is the bridge between your dreams and your reality. You can talk about what you want. You can write it down. You can even visualize it until it feels real. But none of that matters if you can't discipline yourself to act. I learned this lesson the hard way. In my younger years, I had ambition, I had ideas, I had desire, but I didn't yet have discipline, and because of that, years passed with very little to show for it. That was the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be. The only thing that could close that gap was discipline. Now, here's the truth. Motivation is wonderful, but it's fleeting. You feel motivated today, but tomorrow you're tired, you're busy, and suddenly your goals don't get the attention they deserve. That's why you can't rely on feelings. You must rely on discipline. It's the ability to force yourself to act even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it. And believe me, you won't always feel like it. Take, for example, something as simple as health. No one wakes up every morning excited to eat clean or go to the gym. But discipline says, I'll do it anyway because I value the result more than the comfort of skipping it. And after enough days of discipline, your body changes, your energy changes, and suddenly your future changes. The same is true in business. You may not feel like making that extra call or working late to finish the project, but the discipline of doing so builds a reputation, builds momentum, and eventually builds your success. Every time you choose discipline, you're building a muscle. And just like lifting weights, the first few repetitions feel heavy, but the more you do it, the stronger you become. Soon, what once took all your effort becomes natural. That's when you know you've built the bridge, because suddenly you're standing on the other side, living the life you once only dreamed about. So remember, don't wait until you feel ready. Discipline is the bridge. And the only way across is to take that first step. One of the greatest traps people fall into is waiting for the perfect moment. They say, I'll start when the timing is right. I'll begin when things settle down. I'll take action once I'm fully ready. But let me tell you, that day rarely comes. Life is never perfectly lined up. There's always going to be a reason to wait. Always going to be a little bit of chaos. Always another excuse. And if you wait for the perfect conditions, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Progress doesn't come when the conditions are perfect. It comes when you make the decision to begin. I remember when I first started in business, I didn't have all the answers. I didn't even have all the skills. What I had was a decision. I chose to begin before I felt ready, and in the process of beginning, I became ready. That's the secret. Starting is what creates the readiness, not the other way around. Think about a farmer. If he waits for perfect weather before planting the seed, he'll never plant anything. The wind will always be too strong, the rain too light, or the sun too hot. But the farmer knows, you plant now in the season you have, because the harvest won't wait. The same applies to your life. Plant the seeds today, imperfectly, and let growth happen along the way. I've spoken to people who said, I'll start saving money when I earn more. But when more came, they still didn't save. I've heard others say, I'll start my business once, everything is secure. But security never arrived. The truth is, the moment you decide to act right in the middle of the imperfection, that is when progress begins. And here's the irony. It's by starting when things are uncertain that you develop the confidence and ability to handle uncertainty. The action creates the strength. The courage builds in the doing. So don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The right moment is the moment you choose to act, and that moment is now. Motion creates emotion. Most people wait until they feel motivated before they act, but that's a mistake. The truth is, action itself is what fuels motivation. Confidence doesn't come first, it's born out of doing. Fear doesn't disappear before you move, it shrinks the moment you take a step. You don't think your way into energy, you move your way into energy. I can still remember times in my own life when I felt completely stuck. I would sit and think about everything I wanted to do, but the longer I sat, the heavier it all felt. The moment I finally stood up and took even the smallest step forward, something shifted, the weight lifted, energy returned. It wasn't because the problem was solved, it was because movement created momentum. Think about it like pushing a car stuck in the mud. At first, it feels impossible. The wheels spin, your shoulders ache, and it seems like it will never move. But if you keep pushing, inch by inch, suddenly the car begins to roll. Once it moves, momentum takes over, and it becomes easier to keep it going. That's exactly how life works. The hardest part is starting, but once you're in motion, the very act of moving gives you new strength. I've seen this principle play out in business as well. People often tell me they're afraid to make the call, afraid to start the project, afraid to take the risk. But when they finally do, the fear shrinks and confidence grows. Why? Because reality is rarely as scary as imagination. Fear feeds on stillness, but action starves it. Even in health, the same law applies. Have you ever dragged yourself to exercise when you didn't feel like it? At the beginning, your body resists, but 10 minutes in, you feel alive, awake, energized. That's proof that motion comes before emotion. You don't wait to feel good to get moving. You get moving so you can feel good. So the next time fear tries to paralyze you, don't sit and wait for courage to arrive. Stand up, take a step, make the call, do the work. Action is the cure. Motion creates the very emotion that will carry you forward. Small steps build big change. Most people underestimate the power of daily actions because they look too small, too simple, too ordinary. They think, what difference does it make if I read for 20 minutes, save a few dollars, or exercise for half an hour? But that's the mistake. The small things don't look like much in the moment, yet over time they accumulate into massive results. I learned this lesson when I first started developing new habits. At first, the changes felt almost invisible. Reading a few pages of a book didn't make me a genius overnight. Saying no to a cup of coffee didn't make me wealthy instantly. Doing a few push-ups didn't transform my health in a week. But what I began to understand is that success doesn't come from one dramatic act. It comes from compounded effort. What you do consistently will always outweigh what you do occasionally. Think about it like planting a seed. When you water it the first day, nothing happens. The second day, still nothing. But keep watering, keep tending to it, and suddenly weeks or months later, a sprout appears. Keep going, and one day you'll be sitting in the shade of a tree you once held in your hand. Life works the same way. Small actions compound into results you can't even imagine at the beginning. I've seen people completely transform their financial lives by simply saving a little each day. I've seen others revolutionize their health by walking consistently, even when it felt insignificant. And I've seen careers flourish not from one giant leap, but from small, faithful steps taken over time. The secret is to stay consistent long enough for the accumulation to work in your favor. The danger is that the same principle works in reverse. Neglect is just as powerful. Skipping the book today doesn't seem like much. Spending a little too much money doesn't look like it matters. Missing one workout doesn't appear dangerous. But repeated over time, those small choices accumulate into failure just as surely as positive ones accumulate into success. So never despise the small steps. Every great mountain is climbed one step at a time, and every great life is built one disciplined choice at a time. Excuses may sound reasonable, but they destroy your future. Every time you give yourself a reason not to act, you're handing away another piece of your potential. And the problem with excuses is that they always sound convincing, at least to the one who makes them. I don't have enough time. I don't have the right resources. I'll start when things settle down. But the truth is, those excuses don't protect you. They trap you. They rob you of opportunity. They steal your momentum. And they quietly close the door on the very future you desire. I remember a time when I was young and broke, and I told myself all kinds of stories to explain why I couldn't change my situation. I blamed circumstances, I blamed my background, I even blamed luck. But blaming never paid a bill, and excuses never bought me freedom. The day my life began to shift was the day I traded excuses for responsibility. I said, if it's going to change, it has to be me. If it's going to get better, I have to get better. That one decision created a completely new path. Excuses are like weeds in a garden. They grow fast, they multiply, and if you don't pull them out, they choke the life out of your harvest. And here's the danger. If you repeat an excuse long enough, you start to believe it's true. You convince yourself that you can't, when the truth is you won't. There's a big difference. Take, for example, someone who says, I can't save money because I don't earn enough. But then you see them spend on things they don't need. It's not that they can't, it's that they haven't taken responsibility. Or someone says, I can't exercise because I'm too busy. But they find hours for television or scrolling on their phone. The issue is never time or money, the issue is excuses. The good news is that the moment you drop an excuse and accept responsibility, life starts to open up. Responsibility gives you control. Excuses give you nothing but regret. Trade excuses for responsibility and watch how quickly your life begins to shift. We all face pain in life. But the question is, which pain will you choose? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret? Discipline is uncomfortable, yes. It's waking up earlier than you'd like, saying no to temptations, holding yourself to a higher standard, doing the work when no one is watching. That kind of pain is sharp, but it's short-lived. Regret, on the other hand, is a heavier burden. It lingers, it follows you, and it whispers in your ear about what you could have done, what you should have done, but didn't. I remember times in my own journey when discipline felt unbearable, sacrificing sleep to study, saying no to outings with friends because I had commitments to keep, choosing to invest money instead of spending it on temporary pleasures. At the time, those choices stung. But later, the results made the pain seem small. Looking back, I realized the discomfort of discipline lasted only moments, but the rewards lasted for years. Now think about someone who avoids that discipline. They skip the study, they avoid the effort, they indulge in every comfort. At first it feels good, they've escaped the pain, but what comes later? Missed opportunities, poor health, financial struggle, broken confidence. That is the pain of regret. And unlike discipline, regret doesn't go away easily. It stays with you. It reminds you daily of what you lost because you refused to pay the smaller price of discipline. Take health as an example. The discipline of exercising a few times a week is inconvenient. You sweat, you strain, you feel sore. But compare that to the regret of years of neglect when your body no longer serves you, when illness steals your freedom. Which pain would you rather carry? Or in business, making the uncomfortable calls, practicing the presentation, saving when you'd rather spend, that's discipline. But the regret of missed promotions, lost opportunities, or never building the life you wanted, that's far heavier. So remember this, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Choose discipline, because while its pain is temporary, its rewards will last a lifetime. What you force yourself to do daily eventually becomes automatic. That's the beauty of habits. They turn hard work into second nature. I can recall when I first committed myself to reading every day. At first, it was difficult. I'd sit with a book and my mind would wander. Some days I had to drag myself through a few pages, but little by little, it became a routine. Eventually, I didn't have to force myself anymore. I wanted to read. And years later, the knowledge I gained from those daily pages opened doors I never imagined. What began as forced discipline became effortless growth. Think about how this plays out in other areas. The person who forces themselves to save a small portion of their income may struggle at first. It feels restrictive, uncomfortable. But over time, it becomes habit. Soon, they don't even think about it, just happens automatically. And years later, they look at their account and see wealth built not from one big act, but from the quiet force of consistent habit. On the other side, bad habits work the same way. Skip one workout, hit snooze a few times, spend a little more than you earn, and before long, those actions become patterns. And those patterns, left unchecked, shape a destiny of mediocrity and regret. That's why being intentional is so important. Every habit you allow or refuse is carving out your future. Success is not something you chase occasionally, it's something you prepare for daily. The routines you create either lift you toward achievement or slowly drag you down. So force yourself to build the right habits today, because one day those habits will carry you without effort. And when they do, you'll realize you're no longer fighting for success. Success has become who you are. Fear never truly disappears, but it does lose its power the moment you act in spite of it. People often think courage means the absence of fear. That's not true. Courage means feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. If you wait for fear to vanish before you act, you'll wait forever. The only way to weaken fear is to confront it with action. I can remember the first time I had to speak in front of a group. My hands shook, my voice trembled, and everything in me wanted to back away. The fear was real. But I made a decision. I would not let fear dictate my future. I stood up, delivered the talk, and something amazing happened. The fear began to shrink. It didn't disappear completely, but it no longer controlled me. And each time I acted again, my confidence grew stronger while fear grew weaker. Fear is like a shadow. It looks larger than life when you stand still. But once you walk toward it, you realize it has no real substance. The moment you pick up the phone to make the call you've been avoiding, fear shrinks. The moment you take the first step towards your goal, fear fades. The moment you confront the challenge head on, you discover the fear was only an illusion magnified by hesitation. Think about it. How many opportunities have people missed simply because they let fear win? A business not started, a relationship not pursued, a talent not developed, all because of the lie that said, wait until you're not afraid. But the truth is, freedom comes when you act while you're afraid. I've met people who told me their greatest regrets weren't from the risks they took, but from the chances they never dared to try. Fear convinced them to play it safe, but safety often costs more than risk. Risk may bring failure, but it also brings growth, experience, and sometimes victory. Playing it safe brings nothing but the quiet ache of what could have been. So don't wait for courage to arrive before you move. Move first, and courage will meet you on the way. Fear yields every time to courageous action. Talent is wonderful, but talent alone is never enough. Many people are gifted, intelligent, even brilliant, but they're stuck. Why? Because talent without consistency is wasted potential. It's not what you can do once that counts. It's what you do over and over that shapes your destiny. Consistency of action is what separates the dreamers from the achievers. I've seen incredibly talented individuals who could have gone far, but they lack discipline. They worked in bursts full of energy one day, distracted the next. They waited for the right mood, the right inspiration, the right feeling before taking action, and because of that, their talent was never fully realized. On the other hand, I've watched people with modest skills rise to extraordinary levels simply because they showed up every single day. They may not have been the most gifted, but they were consistent. And consistency compounds in ways talent alone never can. When I first started in business, I wasn't the smartest in the room. I didn't have the natural flair that others did, but I made myself a promise. I would be consistent. I would make the calls, study daily, and put in the work, even when I didn't feel like it. Over time, that consistency built momentum. The results didn't arrive overnight, but they came and they stayed because the foundation was steady. Think about water dripping on a stone. One drop doesn't make a difference. 10 drops don't either. But years of steady dripping carves a hole right through the rock. That's the power of consistency. It does what raw talent alone cannot. Even in health, it's not the one intense workout that transforms you. It's the steady rhythm of exercise, day after day. In finances, it's not the occasional windfall that builds wealth. It's the habit of consistent saving and investing. In relationships, it's not one grand gesture that builds trust. It's the consistent actions of showing up, listening, and caring. So remember, talent may open the door, but only consistency keeps you in the room. It's not brilliance that guarantees success. It's the steady hand, the daily effort, the unshakable commitment to keep going. Intention is a wonderful thing, but intention alone changes nothing. Your life doesn't respond to what you meant to do, what you hope to do, or what you plan to do. It only responds to what you actually do. Intention is the seed, but action is the harvest. And too many people live their lives carrying around bags of seed, never planting them, never watering them, never giving them a chance to grow. They talk about their goals, they dream about their future, they even write down their plans, but until they take action, all of that remains unrealized potential. I've met people who told me, I was planning to start a business, or I meant to get in shape, or I was going to work on myself. The problem is, those intentions never turned into action. And at the end of the year, they had the same results as before, because life doesn't reward you for good intentions. Life rewards you for execution. Think about a farmer. If he holds on to a sack of seed and says, one day I'll plant this when the conditions are perfect, his land will stay empty. He can intend to plant, he can dream of a harvest, he can even talk about it to his neighbors, but until he takes that seed to the ground, he'll never see a crop. It's the same for you. Action is the planting. Without it, intention has no harvest. I remember times when I was hesitant, when I had an idea, but fear or doubt made me delay. The idea looked great on paper, but nothing happened until I forced myself to act. And once I did, doors opened, opportunities appeared, and momentum carried me forward. It wasn't my intention that created those opportunities, it was my action. So don't mistake good intentions for progress. Thinking about doing the work doesn't equal doing the work. Dreaming of change doesn't create change. Wishing for success doesn't produce success. Life will always respond to the action you take, not the action you meant to take. Intention is the seed, but action, only action, brings the harvest. So remember, the gap between where you are and where you want to be will never close on its own. It closes when you force yourself to act, when you choose discipline over comfort, courage over fear, and consistency over excuses. Your dreams are waiting, but they won't wait forever. The clock is ticking, and the only right time is now. Don't leave this room unchanged. Decide today. Start small, but start. Take one step and then another until action becomes your way of life. because life doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. So stand up and begin.